Recap in minutes. Today we will be going through a drama, war, and action movie from 1977, called Cross of Iron. There will be spoilers ahead in this video, so chill out and enjoy. The movie begins with a German children's song accompanied by a mix of black and white footage from pre-war and wartime scenes. The footage includes Hitler Youth boys and other Germans seemingly embracing the Hitler ethos with enthusiasm. As the scene transitions to color, a German platoon led by Sergeant Rolf Steiner raids a Russian forward outpost. The platoon successfully detonates the outpost or the mortar position of the Russians, using a hand grenade. Following the attack, Steiner's men capture a young Russian boy soldier. They pull the guns when he tries to get his harmonica, but Steiner and his men listen to him playing that. They take the boy in their truck with them to reach the camps. While behind the secure lines, a captain named Stransky arrives to take command of Sergeant Steiner's battalion. He goes to Colonel Brandt, the regiment's commander in his camp. The colonel introduces him to Captain Kiesel and Lieutenant Trybig. Stransky requests him to transfer him to the southernmost corner of Russia. While the colonel is puzzled by Stransky's decision to request a transfer from his comfortable duties in occupied France to the challenging Kuban bridgehead in Russia. When questioned, Stransky proudly explains to Colonel Brandt and the regimental adjutant Captain Kiesel that he applied for frontline duty in Russia with the sole purpose of earning the prestigious Iron Cross medal. The colonel jests with him, saying that they can give him one of his medals. But he says he has volunteered for this campaign because he feels that men of quality are needed here. It is the time to destroy the myth of Russian invincibility. He suggests bolstering morale and punishing those who are subordinate and rebellious. Then he gets out to meet the incoming platoon Corporal Steiner. Suddenly the Russians begin to attack their positions, destroy their defensive lines, and kill their soldiers, but he escapes somehow. After the platoon's post is attacked by the Russians, Captain Stransky meets Corporal Steiner upon his return from patrol. He asks him who is the young boy with him. When he tells him that he is a Russian prisoner of war, he orders Steiner to shoot the boy prisoner in strict observance of a standing order. When Steiner refuses, Stransky prepares to shoot the boy himself, but at the last moment, Corporal Schnurrbart saves the boy by volunteering to do it. Stransky asks him to meet him in his bunker in 1 hour. Later, when Steiner reports to the captain, he reprimands him for not following orders to shoot the prisoner, citing the challenges of feeding their own troops and the security risks of keeping prisoners. Despite this, Stransky reads Steiner's report and announces his promotion from corporal to senior sergeant, but Steiner remains expressionless, which seems to irk Stransky. He warns Steiner not to underestimate the value of his current company and dismisses him. After that, Steiner heads to his bunker through the trench, evading gunfires, shells, and mortars, and somehow manages to reach his bunker safely. After the meeting, Stransky watches through his mirror and suspects that his adjutant, Lieutenant Trybig, is involved in a clandestine homosexual relationship with Kepler, when Stransky surreptitiously sees Trybig stroking his cheek. Homosexuality is considered a death penalty offense in the German army. Stransky engages them in discussions against women and subtly tries to confirm their sexual orientation. Eventually, he asks Lieutenant Trybig directly if he prefers the company of men over women, and when the lieutenant reluctantly agrees, Stransky warns them that if they get caught, they will face a slow hanging as punishment. The platoon receives intel about an upcoming Russian offensive, and Corporal Steiner and his men prepare to take positions in the trenches to defend against any hostility from the enemy. As they wait for the anticipated attack in the trenches and pits, Steiner takes a young Russian boy to the forward positions in no man's land and sets him free. Steiner has developed a bond with the boy, who even gifts him a harmonica as a token of their friendship. After the goodbye, he runs through the woods where he is accidentally killed by advancing Soviet troops in a major attack. He witnesses the young boy's accidental death during the chaos, and this devastates him. The Germans are forced to defend their positions fiercely. Meanwhile, Stransky, feeling overwhelmed by fear, seeks refuge in his bunker. During the battle, Lieutenant Meyer, the highly respected leader of Steiner's company, is tragically killed while leading a successful counterattack. Steiner also gets wounded while attempting to rescue a fellow German soldier, and as a result, he is sent to a military hospital to recover from his injuries. Steiner is tormented by haunting images of the deceased soldiers and the boy, experiencing vivid dreams before waking from a coma. After his recovery, Steiner is offered a chance to take a home leave, but he makes the decision to return to his comrades instead. Upon his arrival, Steiner learns that Stransky has deceitfully claimed responsibility for the successful counterattack, which was actually led by Lieutenant Meyer. As a result of his false claim, Stransky has been nominated for the prestigious Iron Cross Award, but his assertion requires 2 witnesses to confirm its validity. Stransky, desperate to secure his undeserved accolade, blackmails his Lieutenant Trybig, by threatening to expose his homosexuality. He also approaches Steiner to be his second witness, trying to entice him with promises of looking after him after the war, if he agrees to support his claim. He asks him why he wants it so badly and tosses his iron cross toward him, saying that it is just a piece of worthless metal. Stransky says it is not worthless for him. If he goes back home without the cross, he could not face his family. Now gets up to leave, saying that he personally believes that he does not deserve the Iron Cross. Meanwhile, the Allied Air Force conducts the raid on their bunkers. He takes his gun and comes out to see his platoon. He runs through the trenches to find his men. This sudden attack blows their bunkers, kills most of their infantrymen, and shatters their defensive setup. After a while, Colonel Brandt welcomes Steiner back into the platoon after the surgery. He is suspicious of Stransky's claims, and interrogates Steiner in the hopes that he will expose the truth and unveil Stransky's dishonesty. He asks him if it was Captain Stransky who led the counterattack. He says Lieutenant Meyer led the attack and the captain was nowhere to be seen. He assures him, saying that he watched Meyer die. Now he calls Trybig inside and stops Steiner to listen to his claims. He says he accompanied Captain Stransky to the field to counterattack, and he sent him back to the command post later. Now the colonel says nothing is more contemptible than stealing the laurels, which properly belong to a man who was killed in action. If Sergeant Steiner stands by his last testimony, he should institute disciplinary proceedings against the captain and the lieutenant. However, Steiner expresses his disdain for all officers, including those who may seem enlightened like Brandt and Kiesel. The colonel says he is the only person who stands between Stransky and his cross of iron. But Steiner asks for some time to reflect on his response, as the situation puts him in a difficult position. After his departure, the colonel receives a call from his general that they have to evacuate their positions immediately. The Germans are forced to retreat, but Stransky sees an opportunity to silence Steiner by not passing on the order. He cuts the communication when Trybig calls them to evacuate. At the next moment, the Russians move in with tanks. The platoon's radio man tries to connect the regimental headquarters, but he could not, as the wires have been disconnected by Stransky. The tanks attack their pit boxes, trenches, bunkers, and destroy their vehicles. The platoon runs for their safety, get their bags, and move through the tunnel to a factory. The Germans tried to stop the advancing Russians with their mortars, but this could not help. Steiner and his platoon also destroyed one of their tanks, placing the mines under it. The squad takes refuge in a factory, exchanging fires to stop the approaching Russian military. Steiner and his men fight well in there, but a tank simply plows through the wall. They escape through a tunnel again and come out on the other side of it. They are on the run and moving cross-country to try to reach German lines. At one time, they had to hide in the forest to evade capture by the Russian army. They cross the road after their vehicles are gone. While on the other hand, the colonel and his men have been evacuated and are waiting for him to return soon. Now Steiner and his platoon are going through a jungle. They swim under the bridge in the canal to kill the Russian guards. After some time, they reach a village and take a unit of Russian female soldiers captive. While on the back posts, the colonel again receives orders to fall further back. When he informs this command to Captain Kiesel, he refuses to leave his men. The colonel takes him into a corner and tries to convince him, saying that he smokes too much. That's why he has trouble understanding some things. Russians are attacking them and the colonel sends the captain back to Germany. After some time, Steiner and his men are in a jungle, and they plan to play a trick of being the prisoners when they come to the Russians. They switch some of his men's uniforms and hold Steiner and his platoon members captives. When some Russian soldiers suspect their German shoes, they immediately get ready to fire on them. Steiner understands the situation too and they fire back. Now they take their positions and attack the Russian guards in the no man's land from behind their own post. After neutralizing the Russian threat, Steiner hopes that their own artillery does not kill them. Now he orders his radio man Anselm to connect their post, and inform them that their reconnaissance patrol is coming in at dawn with several Russian prisoners. He alerts them to not shoot at them. Captain Stransky gets this news and calls Trybig in. He asks him if he saw half a dozen men in Russian uniforms, advancing on him in the dark. Could anyone blame him if he opened fire? He says no and understands the assignment and leaves. The next moment, Trybig sees Steiner coming through the barbed wires. They were shouting their safety password and calling the name of Steiner. But suddenly the Russians attacked them from behind. They had to take shelter, but the Germans fired on their own men. They can see Steiner and his men, but Trybig ignores, and several members get killed in this action. When a machine gunner realizes that they are killing their own men, he stops Trybig and pushes the gunner aside. Steiner comes to the trench running and holds Trybig at gunpoint. He begs for his life, saying that it was all Stransky's orders, and he had no part in it. Steiner has flashbacks of his men and guns down Trybig and goes looking for Stransky in anger. The Russians choose this moment to launch an attack. They destroy their posts and vehicles and kill their men. Steiner tracks down Stransky amidst all the chaos, and says his man Trybig is dead but decides not to kill him. Instead, they go out together to fight. Steiner has shamed Stransky into earning the Iron Cross. Stransky accepts his challenge and says he will show him how to fight. And Steiner says he will show him where the Iron Crosses grow. Both of them come out amidst the gunfire and aerial shots by the bombers. The movie ends when Colonel Bratt leads his company in eliminating the Russians, while Steiner and Stransky kill on the railway track. Stransky fumbling with reloading his machine gun and Steiner laughing at him. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe recap in minutes for more videos like this, and help the channel grow.